Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU. Another episode, another reason to love your HBCU. So, it's summer, and those of you joining us for the summer, you know things are a little different. And those of you who really know, our Generation Next thought leaders are the ones who are running things behind the scenes. And they've said for the summer, you, Tosin, are going to be speaking to one HBCU made and one HBCU now the entire month of July and August. And they, Generation Next, get to pick the subject matters. So today, I get to welcome the HBCU maid that I get to speak to the entire summer, Chinedu Nnamdi Nwokeafor. How are you?
I am fabulous in yourself.
I can't complain. So you notice, so Chinedu's name is clearly not English. It is Igbo Nigerian. Am I correct? Yes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I love saying his entire name because it gives the acronym CNN. And if you know Chinedu is a bold talker in his heyday and even now a passionate activist for all things Black. And I secretly want to see him on CNN one day as a commentator or something. Would you be open to that, Chinedu?
From your mouth to God's ears.
From my mouth to God. Listen, I never know when I say these things to Chinedu whether he's going to be like, girl, no. So I'm grateful that you're open to it. I really, really am. Chinedu, Tosin, don't do that. That's not nice. So the subject matter that our amazing Generation Next thought leaders have thrown at us to discuss for your episode is, can we talk about what the Republicans get right? Are you ready to talk about what the Republicans get right?
I am ready.
He's ready. He shook his head several times and said, because some are listening, some are watching. So for those listening, that dead silence was, whew, am I ready? Sure, I am ready. I normally wait to do the rapid fire a little. Nah, you know what, Tosin, listen to the way they said you should do this. Bear with me, guys. I'm not running the show today. That's why I sound all over the place. They are running the show today, as they should. No worries. Chinedu, when you hear the word Republican, what's the first word or feeling that comes to mind and why?
White. And I just think it's the first thing that comes to my mind because I just think about the representation. I think about when if you turn on the television and they're saying Republican senator, Republican this, Republican that, besides two people, they're pretty much all white, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's
Why?
no simpler than that.
So I know they said word or feeling.
Hmm.
I'm curious about a feeling. What feeling comes to mind? I want to hear both. You gave us white as your word. What's the feeling?
If that could be a word, that would be the feeling.
The sigh? The
it's
sigh is the
it's a
feeling.
sigh, but the funny thing about the sigh, it's not. It is very much. It's not as negative as folks would think. It's
Okay.
very neutral, and I think throughout the conversation it'll make more sense.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Now I get to throw the rapid 67 at you, but listen, you are a lover of history. You are a lover of all things HBCU from everything I know about you. I haven't asked this question in a while.
Mhm.
Why do you think we call it the rapid 67, which means it is 67 seconds on the clock instead of 60 seconds on the clock?
Well, I'm going to assume that it has something to do with my institution, the illustrious Morgan State University.
That would be a no. Yeah, somewhat, somewhat,
Okay.
somewhat,
Dang.
somewhat, somewhat.
Okay.
I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the
Okay.
answer. So most of us know that in 1867, if I'm not mistaken, 1867 is the year that most HBCUs, the largest number, that is more accurate, the largest number of HBCUs were either founded or incorporated in 1867. And that's why we give homage to, I believe it's a close 9 or 10 of them that have 1867 as their founding year. Founding in quotes, because Morgan State University has 1867. But if you go back to the origination, i.e., Morgan Centennial College and then Bible College, and that, listen, Tosin, you're not good at history. Let me stop with the history lesson. Let's get to the Rapid 67, okay? Are you ready?
Let's do it. You were doing great. Let's do it.
I'm not good at history. All right, on the clock, 67 seconds on the clock, please.
Mhm.
Trump or George W. Bush?
George W. Bush.
Candace Owens versus Megyn Kelly.
Candace freaking Owens.
Candace Owens. You took a pause when you said that. Chinedu, if you had to
Mhm.
switch places with a famous Republican for a day, who would it be?
John McCain, and I know the day too, and that's going to be an extra credit answer.
Wow, John
Mhm.
McCain, and you know the date, okay?
Mhm.
Tim Scott or Byron Donalds?
Yikes. Byron Donalds.
Byron Donalds. Chinedu, do you think more black folks would be Republicans if it weren't for racism?
Yes.
Yes, that was a quick yes. What is your unpopular opinion about Republicans?
Mm, they are very organized.
They are very organized. That's your unpopular opinion.
Hmm.
If convert, if conserv, I can't even say the word. If conservative, why can't I say the
Conservatism.
word? Conservatism. Praise the Lord. What is going on with me? If that word had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh man. Okay, this gonna sound so crazy. It will be the "I'm too sexy for my shirt." That would be their theme song. Believe it or
I
not.
love it. I love it. And on that note, the Rapid 67 is done. This might be the best and craziest Rapid 67. Not me not being able to pronounce words. What's going on with me? Okay. God is good. Okay,
God is
let's
good.
get to it, Chinedu. You said a lot of things that I've got a lot of follow up on.
Gotcha.
Tell me the story about John McCain first.
He was one of the last decent men that I saw of a statesman from that party, the Republican Party, and the night would be a specific night when he was campaigning, and it's a famous night where I think a white woman, she had said something negative about Barack Obama, and if you study, politics, if you just study MAGA isms, that was a perfect moment for a cheap shot. And he could
Hmm.
have used that to his advantage, especially being a bit behind. But he allowed the truth to prevail. And that is the thing in politics that we don't see. And he could have easily lied and gassed up his base and garnered more of the base. But he chose to be a statesman. And I think that, even though he's from a party that I don't always usually align with, I would want to be him in that moment because that's real courage where you in real time have to do the right thing and you actually do it. That is not a political thing on either side. And I respect him forever just for that one simple moment because some would even say that moment opened the floodgates for the opposites, the MAGAists, to become who they are because it's like this man didn't play ball with the idea of lying. We can't count on him any longer. So I love that day for me.
I respect that. The minute you started talking and you spoke of the day, my mind went to it. Most of us saw it on video. Most of us respected it, and may his soul rest in peace. And that's a word a lot of people have used,
Mm.
i.e., such a statesman, with when they're speaking about John McCain. So I'm glad I asked you that. You also, in your rapid
Thank you.
fire, talked about the Republicans being organized. Tell us
Mhm.
more. Again, this whole episode is going to be what the Republicans get right. So if somebody happens to be a
Wonderful.
massive Republican hater and they are like, nah, I can't believe these two beautiful black people are on the screen talking about Republicans and the things they get right, then this might not be the episode for you. I'm just being very honest. But if you're somebody that's an independent thinker, and you just want to hear, okay, what are their opinions about this? Then by all means, keep listening. Go ahead, Chinedu.
All right, so I'm going to go very, very much Afrocentric for this one.
Go
I think
ahead.
sometimes, and stay with me here, and for those who don't know, this is a great time to bring out your Google. I think what the Republicans do, I'm going to describe it as Lagos, Nigeria, and what the Democrats do, I'll describe it as your typical American highway. And what do I mean by that? Lagos is an organized chaos. To the untrained eye, it looks chaotic. But the crazy thing about that chaos is it works. And all the people in the chaos understand how to maneuver it. It is the non people who aren't a part of that quote unquote chaos that are confused. And the Democrats are like our good 495s and our 95s. All these organizations, but it's the same accidents, the same slowdowns, the same choke points at every single, it has all the technology, all the money, all the whatever to get it right, but still lacking in understanding, in theory, of the people who are plying the road. I feel like your typical Republican knows their electorate, and the Democrats, they really just know their high level educated, super educated PR teams. And the problem with that is people have to remember that whether you like it or not, the heartland of America, and I'm not talking about location, I'm talking about your average American. The average American tends to understand or at least lean towards the idealistic culture of what Republicans, that chaos, has to offer compared to what the organized, streamlined 6 lanes this way, 6 lanes that way that the Democrats have. That's the only way I can describe this.
Wow. Wow. So I happen to also be Nigerian. So I happen to know where Lagos, Nigeria is. I happen to have driven those streets. So when you make the comparison, I do understand what you're talking about. For those who may not necessarily have had the opportunity to visit Lagos, Nigeria, imagine absolute chaos. And guys, I love Nigeria when I say this. I believe Chinedu loves Nigeria when he says this as well. But imagine a 6 lane road and there are lanes, but good luck trying
Good
to
luck.
find the lanes because everybody's driving all over the place. But for whatever reason, everyone is still moving forward. It's the weirdest thing. And clearly we're not describing the entire city, we're describing a part. But try to keep that symbolism in your mind as you listen or as you heard what Chinedu just said with regards to the comparison points. Um Chinedu, you speak about organization, you speak about the
Hmm.
streamlining. Can
Hmm.
we talk about message discipline?
Oh God.
And the fact that, okay, so how this subject came about is Generation Next thought leaders, they were covering the past presidential debate. They went to
Hmm.
Philadelphia. They covered the election, and so they observed some things. They were in the crowd with the people, and they listened to what both sides had to tell them constantly. So when they were putting together the list of, hey, we want you to drill down on some certain subjects with a guest with an HBCU made, please bear in mind that it is coming from a perspective. It's not just coming from the air, if you will.
Mhm.
And what they describe is praising Republicans for message discipline. Number one,
Yes.
Chinedu,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you, if you know what it means, which I think you do?
Mhm.
And do you think Democrats struggle with that?
I thank you. First of all, I do know what it means. I don't think Democrats struggle. I think they fail. And I think they fail because I think Democrats are trying to be perfect, right? And again, back to my statement, what Republicans do well is they pay attention to the electorate.
Hmm,
Let me be clear. I am that educated Democrat I'm talking about, okay?
got
So
it.
I got a degree or two or whatever and experience, but I'll tell you this, when I go to an average Democratic anything, I still don't feel heard. Like people have to
Hmm,
understand the craziness about they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. There was an audience for that, right?
hmm, hmm,
Remember the song
hmm.
that you hear on the radio that is so stupid to you? But it
Yeah,
goes number one because somebody's listening. So
yeah.
I think sometimes it's less important to kind of dissuade how crazy the other side is saying about the other side, but understand, is that other side picking up? Is that other side getting sales from that talking point? And Republicans are perfect. The crazier the thing, the more excited the people are getting because, believe it or not, what they're saying is what the people want to hear. And I think on the Democratic side, they want to say what people want to hear, but unfortunately, because of PR, everybody is trying to find a way to package it so perfectly. And what I think about perfection, in if you will, is perfection really is just storytelling. And I think the Republicans, they're do very well at telling a story that the electorates can relate to, and they stick to it no matter how grueling or crazy it sounds. It matches what happened. And I'm going to end on this. It just makes me think about, if you know, the national anthem is the Star Spangled Banner, and it's a poem by Francis Scott Key, and he's telling you, "Oh, say, can you see?" He's talking about bombs bursting in air. People, that resonates with what people knew what was going on. He's not saying, "Could you imagine the kerfuffle?" He's not talking like that, but that's how the Democrats would describe it. The thing about storytelling is it has to be authentic. It doesn't have to be true. It has to be
Mm,
authentic.
mm, mm, mm. The thing about storytelling is that it has to be authentic. The part that hit me hard, that made me go the several it doesn't have to be true. I
Uh-huh.
read a lot. I read
Mm.
about 4 books every single
Mhm.
month at the same
Mhm.
time. I do.
Mhm.
One book I read in the morning, one book I read mid-afternoon, blah, 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 blah. Some are fiction. I prefer nonfiction.
Mhm.
But before, I hope people, I hope your words resonate. I hope your words
Me too.
resonate. And the reason why I'm hoping your words resonate is, ah, you use the word story and then authentic and then true. And let's not forget, even our fiction stories that are based on a real story are still
Mhm.
fictionalized, but it resonates so deeply with
Mhm.
us. and
Mhm.
and and you just, I think, landed on a key of what the Republicans do right, that I don't hate to agree with you, but I kind of sort of agree with you that the Democrats, I don't think they figured it out. And the question is, will they figure it out? Or not will they? Do they want to figure it out?
Mm.
Do you
Mm-mm.
think they want to figure that out?
No.
Or is it beneath them?
No. Because now here's the interesting thing about both parties. I think for them to figure it out, this is where both parties are the same. For
Got
them
it?
to figure it out means that they would, in their minds, have to lower their standard, what they're calling lower their standards, right? If that means, I think Jasmine Crockett said it the other day, that they're preparing the next white boy or something like that to come and take the thing, because maybe a black woman or a black man or a Latina woman or Latina man, that might be too much for them, as is the same for the Republicans. So I
Hmm.
think it's when I even think about what I just said, because I'm not going to lie, it blew my mind as I said it. And I
As you
think
said it.
I'm a big believer in God, and most of my words, if not all, just they're God speaking through me. That's what I believe. To
Uh-huh.
anybody
Uh-huh.
their own belief,
Sure.
but that's what I
Sure.
believe.
Sure.
But I think when I resonate on that even further, it makes me think of this. People ask this question. You hear it every day on every TV screen. Why do they vote against their interests? That's exactly why.
That's
Because
exactly
it's
why.
authentic. Do you know why our message doesn't win? Because what Vice President Harris and what Tim Walz said, it was true. But what was missing? Its authenticity.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Wow. I need, I hope, again, I'm just going to keep hoping it resonates to the independent thinker. For the record, I am neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I hope this resonates with the authentic, with the independent thinker. Chinedu, you much earlier on, you had talked about when you spoke about organization and you
Hmm.
spoke about authenticity, because you've spoken about authenticity a couple of times, there's something
Hmm.
you said that reminded me of a couple of trips that I've made in the United States of America. If you will, I want to share that. um we live in metropolitan areas. We get to dialogue and discourse with persons who, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, can see reason, even if we don't all agree. But then you travel to the outskirts, you travel to the rural areas. Let's say Maryland, for example.
Hmm.
I have found myself in recent months on the outskirts of the metropolitan areas of Maryland, and he just did the sign of the cross. May the good Lord help him. Um, and I've met more Republicans than not,
Hmm.
um, and they have been kind.
Hmm.
They have been nice as people. Some of them have been racist. Let me be very clear. And somebody's going to look at me and say, Tosin, how can a racist be kind and nice in the same breath? I'm just telling you what my experience was. Um, and I listened to them more than speaking. And that was very, very intentional. Because in
Hmm.
listening to them, I heard a group of people that don't pay attention to the noise outside. I heard a group of people who, to your point, whatever the message is that the Republicans have successfully delivered to them, they are eating it hook, line, and sinker, if that's a
Hmm.
phrase. I'm getting it
Hmm.
wrong. And in them doing so, they feel confident that no matter what you guys are doing over there in your big cities, and no matter what you guys are doing over there in your metropolitan spaces, even if some of the policies are that are being passed are against us, we're still going to stick on this side.
Hmm.
Some would mistaken it or conflate it with freedom,
Hmm.
choice,
Hmm.
the folksy self determination. What are your thoughts on that? Because they're not the same words that I hear people describing Democrats with, but it's absolutely what I hear people describing the non metropolitan, non big city Republicans. We have the right to choose. We have the freedom of choice.
Hmm.
Now, let me stop there because I don't want to
Yeah.
start. I don't want to
Hmm.
start throwing out the Second Amendment and
Hmm.
abortion, and I don't want to
Hmm.
make it about that. I want to make it about the
Right.
big picture. Yes,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah, I think to that exact point, I think it's both. I think it's both. I think
Okay,
this is one of those both things for both parties, but we use different words.
okay,
For the
okay.
Republicans, we'll say stuff like racism and stuff like that. They're stuck in their ways. But then, in our Democratic biomes, if you were, our Democratic milieus, same thing is happening. It's no different than when they come to redevelop Bed-Stuy in New York, right? That's gentrification. We don't want that, right? That's no different from us trying to go into those, cultural areas, if you will, Southern Maryland, Western Maryland, and we want to do that, and we'll say, oh no, but
Hmm.
they, da, 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 da. It really makes me think about this one thing that I've always thought about, and it's funny, we care about these things, but only in, I hate to say it, white supremacist ways, and I'm being very
Okay.
serious when I say this. The idea of preservation. Go to any museum funded by our government, and you will see preservation at its finest, right? But then, yet, when we go to Gainesville, Virginia, or Manassas, where I used to live, super, super white, super Republican, um, and now all these big developers want to come. Um, it's we want to encroach our lifestyle, if you will, on them because what we think that we have is better. Or when you are now coming to Bed-Stuy or Harlem in New York and you want to redevelop, we use different words. Speech communication major here, so I see the game in words. And English just has a very funny way of using different words that really mean the same thing. We'll call it redevelopment, but redeveloping for who? And with whom? But it's similar concepts. I think there has to be a level of authenticity, truth, and preservation coming together. Now, these are three things that need to be put together. What do I mean by that? I'll give you a great example. A museum. A museum is authentic to the truth of the story that it's telling. It's preserved in that thing. They build structures that is respectful to that thing. I think sometimes it would be nice, from our parties, both parties, all parties, for there to be that understanding. Because I think sometimes when we come and say, oh my God, the Republicans, they're so racist, sometimes we should listen a little bit more, right? It's not that they're racist inherently. Their thought process is different because their structures are different. I will go back to Nigeria. You can't come to my village and speak city talk because the organization of the city is not the organization of the village. The way a village works is not the way the city works. And that is in every society. I'm sure the same exists in the United Kingdom or in Asia. So, yes, are there inherently racist? Da, 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 da? Yes, I do agree with that. But I think a lot of times it's the approach. A lot of that racism is fear. Have you ever asked yourself when someone asks you to do something that you've never done, what is your first response usually? I know me, I don't like cooking. So when you ask me about cooking, the first response is a vehemently, I hate it, I hate it. But what I'm actually saying is, I don't
I
understand
don't
and I'm not
understand.
good at it. So I feel like somehow, and I'm not caping for either side, but we have to do better at understanding that middle ground. And that starts with a lot of listening.
What does Tim Scott get? What does bike? Let me finish. Let me finish. Don't have a heart attack. Don't have a heart attack. And I'm
Let me
mentioning these
listen.
two. There are others. There are
Hmm.
others.
Okay.
But we also know that when it comes to the Republican Party, there are less black people in the Republican Party than there are not. So but the two that we know well, or their names, Tim Scott and Byron Donalds, what do they get that other black people don't get? They are self-identified Republicans. That's what I mean by that when I say what do they get? What do they get that others don't get? What do you
As in,
think they get?
what do they understand, or what are they getting? Okay, either
Understand,
way.
understand. Sorry. What do they understand? What do you think
Okay.
they understand that the rest of us, those who find themselves on the opposite side of that party, that they don't get? If you could take a stab at it, I know you don't know the men personally, but if you could take a stab at it, what do you think
Thank
they
God.
understand? What do you think they understand that
Uh,
maybe other black folks don't?
I'll be kind. I think they understand to join a winning team. And I'll tell you why winning is very important. People forget that like playing the game is important, but nobody, I didn't come out to lose.
Hmm.
So I think one thing about them is winning changes. Just think about how you would have felt in November had that wonderful, amazing, well qualified black woman, human, ascended into office. Think about how all of us would have felt mentally. Think about what we were planning. I think they understand that being on a team that's going to win transforms the mind. It transforms the spirit. Sometimes I would say this respectfully, and this is I'm somebody who leans more Democrat. Sometimes being on the Democrat is we'll try again tomorrow. And nobody wants to do that. We watch the Super Bowl every year and we love our teams to make it and win. And I think they understand that, even though I don't think that they do it properly, they understand that even if they, hear me correctly, are not winners, they being those two black men, that their teams that they're a part of are winning. And I personally believe if they were a lot smarter and wiser, they could use that for the betterment of Black people. Because again, you didn't ask this, but I'm telling you, when I think about a Black Republican I could get behind, even though he's fictional, I think about Philip Banks from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay, that is the greatest example of the one that I know. You know why? Because yeah, he was rich, but he was still a black man. I could still see the things and the experiences of my community. I didn't see that he sold out to, again, my experience, my vantage point. Everybody is different. The issue that I have with people, like, there's in those episodes of that show, you see him go up against the quote unquote white man with a vociferous attitude. I don't see that with Tim Scott, it is, and Byron Donalds. I just see a lot of dancing and I see a lot of quietness towards that person, but a lot of loudness towards the people that look like them. So
Mm,
that is the best I
mm,
could give them.
mm, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. And I, my father once said to me, Tosin, you can learn a lot from a homeless man.
Mm,
And what my father meant by that, I've never been homeless. I'm grateful to God for that. Um, he always imparts upon all of us. I'm his child. I'm going to speak for myself that every space you're in, be learning. Every space you're in, be listening. I do hope that when people hear what you've said, because to me, there's just a lot of nuggets that are applicable and that should not be dismissed. And the reason why I keep on saying should not be dismissed, my relationship with Democrats and the Democratic Party is they can be dismissive. They don't always hear that the opposing side, although they be opposing, does not automatically mean that they are wrong. And it does not automatically mean that everything that they are saying is not applicable. So I hear you. What resonates for me is as much as you don't want to give them anything, i.e., the Tim Scotts and Byron Donalds,
don't.
you've also admitted that as you view it, they've recognized that there is something to being on a winning team. Now, we can all get into further conversation of how are we defining winning? We could
Mm,
all get into conversation of who are we winning for. We could get into
mm,
all those different
mm, mm,
conversations, but I do hope that when people hear what you just said, they take away that there's a feeling. The minute you described that I'm a black woman, whether I'm Democratic or Republican, in this case is irrelevant. If I had seen Kamala Harris win, there's a feeling that was going to go with that, whether I like it or not. And it is a winning feeling. It's several things, not just winning. It's several things that would have gone with it. And I think that's what you are evoking, if I may, when you make that statement with regards to Tim Scott and Byron Donalds. You
mhm.
want to say something? Go for it. Go for it.
Absolutely. And I will say this, that feeling, as if you repeat the statement that I said or repeat the statement that Dr. Tosin just said, just say it out loud, close your eyes. When you were talking, I started getting butterflies. I
Mm,
wish the Democrats could do whatever it took legally to satisfy that feeling.
that feeling. That
Because
feeling.
that's why the Republicans won. They did whatever it took. Some would say legally, some would say illegally, we're not too sure. but
Yeah.
they did whatever it took. That's why they were able to go to the eating the cats and eating the dogs, because that satisfied that feeling of win. The
Mm.
chainsaws and all of the nonsense, the theater. Remember, we don't go to movies to see things that are just, oh, nice. We want to be moved and shit. That's what, it's the feeling. If we can pay attention to the feeling and disregard everything else, sexual identity, gender, race, where you were born or whatever, put that all to the side and say, let's satisfy that feeling, right? Because feelings are agnostic to any of those other humane things or humanistic things. If we could just focus on that feeling legally, we would win.
Do you think that the Democrats even have a handle on what feeling they are supposed to be satisfying? And let me throw this out there. I thought my students, again, let me not say my students, not all of them are my students, but I call our Generation Next thought leaders group and our Gen X advocates, I just call them my students because they're kids to me. But I thought they would have celebrated and been excited with all the celebrity fandom that came out during the election, during the campaign. And they were the ones that looked at me dead in the face and said, "What does this have to do with anything?" And I was quiet because that's what I was thinking. I didn't share it out loud, but that's what I was thinking. But to hear them say it, they're like, listen, we said we love our artists, we love this, we love that, and we're gonna go dance. We're gonna they said, listen, I enjoyed the party. Literally, that's what they told me. But when it comes down to it, at the convention, as an example, that's the one they were talking about specifically, having I can't even remember which artist it was, and I don't want to get it wrong, but there was an artist that was two steps away from twerking on stage as an introduction for one of the it might be Kamala Harris herself, but again, I don't want to get this wrong, but for one of the speakers to come out, that was the intro to the speaker coming out. And it was Gen Next that was like, I'm going to dance with you. I'm going to enjoy it. But what does this have to do? Do you think that the way you have given the Republicans credit for understanding the feeling and then satisfying it, it's not just understanding, but understanding the feeling and satisfying it. Do you think the Democrats just don't, do they know what feeling they're supposed to be satisfying? Do they have a handle on that in your viewpoint, from your vantage point?
No. And I think because they're spending far too much time putting money into the, I won't say their names because maybe one day they will be, by the grace, funders of this show. But all these
Oh.
huge PR firms, right? When you got to listen to the people, I think that's the biggest issue. You have to listen to them and believe them. And I think the gyration and the dancing and all of that, don't get me wrong, I too enjoyed. And I too threw my hands up and did a 1-2 step, if I may. Hallelujah. However, at the end of the day, back to what I love about speaking is the end should sound like the beginning: authenticity and truth. Democrats are suffering from both. They
Wow.
were trying to be overly authentic, and you became inauthentic, right? So you were more Chipotle and less mom and pop in that situation. And they didn't keep it focused on the mascot being whoever's running. In my opinion,
Mm.
if the mascot cannot sell, you've lost. The
Hmm.
mascot should be the only thing. If you pay attention, I what your Gen Nexters did by going to the during the election, it,
Hmm.
it almost reminds me of what I see when I watch Jordan Klepper, I think, on Comedy Central. He does that a lot as well. He'll go to the Republican side. And I think people focus on quote unquote how quote unquote stupid or uneducated that they sound. And do you know what I notice? Uniformity. And
Mm.
uniformity has its place in good and bad. But you have to think about it like if you're a member of an organization, right? What's the mission statement? Can I go to somebody in Australia and ask them a mission statement of an organization that somebody in Maryland will say the exact same thing. When you go to your average Democrat, you hear too many different things, and that means messaging is not clear, and that means folks are not listening. The mascot should be a representative. He or she or they or them should be clear in their messaging. And when you're clear in your messaging, the culture comes with you. And since we're talking to these very, very astute, erudite PR firms, if you need some reference point, some footnote, pay attention to the Bernard Sanders campaign of 2016. No major frills, but everybody was on board because the mascot sold enough authenticity to who he is and truth to power. And even funny, these same quote unquote surrogates that we love to get came to him as well. I remember Cardi B did a sit down with him to talk about government. It wasn't him pretending like he knows her music, but it was speaking on the truth, and it spoke to both parts. Cardi got to authentically do her, and he got to authentically do him. And like it or not, Donald J. Trump is a masterclass at that. Again, we don't care if it's the truth, but staying on the message, representing what those who are going to vote are going to vote for, and not distracting you with nonsense, per se. Direct nonsense. It's its own level of nonsense, but it's an indirect nonsense, if you will. That's the winning strategy. Um, because I'm just my question is, Democrats, who I respect, I've been to the barbershop many times this year, didn't see you there. You still going to those salons? Are people still calling Charlemagne the God to meet and discuss about what we want? But what is the person who cannot get reelected? What is he doing even now? Still hosting town halls, staying on message,
Wow.
still hosting rallies, staying on message. I think that is the thing.
Wow.
I don't think the Democrats understand that if you are going to be what you are, you have to be a consummate person of that thing all the time. That is what Republicans get absolutely correct.
You threw me on that. In a like
Thank
I
God.
was not expecting. I was not expecting that.
I wasn't either.
And I'm glad I was quiet the entire time and I just let you land. Because once you landed, I watch news. I still watch news, unlike many people I know. And the criticism I've heard people make against Trump, for example, is wasn't he supposed to be doing this? Instead, he's doing a rally. Wasn't he supposed to be doing this? Instead, he's doing this. Wasn't he supposed to? Instead, he's doing that. And you just said something, somebody that actually cannot be reelected. And he's not, unless you change the Constitution, he actually is not doing this for him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing it for the party that he still belongs to. Wow. Wow. Chinedu, I was going to ask you what now is a redundant question. And
I love it
I
here.
was I was going to ask you what is one lesson Democrats can learn from Republicans, but you've given us a masterclass of lessons the entire time that you've spoken about the different things that they can learn. And listen, I hope they're listening. If for those who care about Democrats, I hope they're listening. You've used your language, but I'm in these streets. Not the way the
Oh,
young ones say they're in the streets, but
oh
I'm in
God.
these streets. I'm so silly and I'm such a nerd. I'm
That's
in
okay.
these streets and I hear what you're saying in different words. We don't feel them being authentic towards us. We don't feel them feeding that feeling. And so because of that, it is easy for them to flutter from place to place, as opposed to you being assured that you've got them. Um, Chinedu, clearly it feels like we're just starting, and Lord have mercy, we are ending. We could talk for more. We really could.
I don't know if you can see it in my face. I'm actually very sad. In my head, we've only been talking for 5 minutes.
And we haven't.
we, it's
And
not what
we
the clock
haven't.
says. The clock said,
The clock says, and my producer says, it's time to wrap up. So
Wrap it
wrap
up.
this up for us, Chinedu.
All right.
Chinedu Nnamdi Nwokeafor, CNN.
This woman is putting my full government on Front Street.
Sorry.
It's
I
all right.
love your name.
Thank you.
One word or short phrase. What should Republicans focus on when it comes to the Black vote? I don't think you can do that in a word. So give us the phrase.
I can't do it in the word, but it's going to be a two-part phrase.
Go for it.
It will be a word, it'll be an acronym. Historically Black colleges and universities. Because here's what we know. We don't need you to lift up the Black community. We'll do that. We are up because of ourselves. But if you can do, in the words of Martin Luther King, be true to what you said on paper, which is equitable funding, if you can just fund our institutions equitably, you've been inequitably funding our institutions, and look what we've created. As far Kamala Harris, so wonderful. Kamala Harris is the wonderful example of how far we can go and where we can. And that was from an underfunding. So I want to keep reminding people that's an underfunding. The man sitting here right now, the illustrious Morgan State University, from an underfunding. Imagine if you funded properly what we could be for ourselves, for our local, national, and international community. And I don't have to say it, but might as well say it. What we do for us will always be good for the American society. And it will always help you because, and I'm going to go far when I say this, we know you better than you know yourself. And if you want to know how, I'll just ask you to study your history on slavery,
Wow.
Jim Crow, and who was taking care and watching yours and your culture. We know you. We know you. Now just respect us and equitably fund us. That's my belief.
I'm going to do the government again because every time you say something that resonates with my soul, I've got to do it. Chinedu Nnamdi Nwokeafor. I am grateful to Gen Next advocates who said the one HBCU made that I must speak to this entire summer is you. This has been an insightful conversation. I wish we were talking for more, but Tosin, bring it on home. I keep saying, bring it on home. Tosin, bring it on home.
It's all good.
Chinedu, thank you so much for being my fellow conversationist. A conversation. Throw the words away. Thanks for being my guest on
There we
this
go.
episode. People are going to be looking at me like, what is wrong with her? I don't care. Thank you so much, Chinedu. Listen, we're going to do this again. We're going to do this all summer long, and I can't wait. I literally can't wait. Yours in HBCU love. See you next episode, guys. It is impossible for you not to have liked this episode because of Chinedu Nnamdi Nwokeafor. So go ahead, like and subscribe to I Love My HBCU ? Yours truly in HBCU love. See you next episode. Chinedu, I love you. Thank you.
I love you. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.